Welcome. This is Kim Ades from Frame of Mind Coaching, and I am the host of Resilience Radio, where I interview guests who are professionals at crushing the tough stuff. Today I have a very, very interesting guest. It's a gentleman that I met in Atlanta recently at an HR conference. Let me kind of just set the scene for you. It was a big conference with a lot of corporate executives in the midst, and my job was to go and meet as many HR people as I could to introduce them to Frame of Mind Coaching. And around the registration table, there was this gentleman who wasn't really dressed for the occasion. I think he was wearing jeans and like a nice shirt, but not a corporate looking guy at all. And he said hello. And I found it a little odd because he didn't seem to fit the mold. He didn't fit the crowd. I didn't know what he was doing there. He wasn't wearing a badge, but I said hello. And later on that day, I said hello again, and we ended up sitting and talking. So it is with great pleasure that I introduce to you a gentleman named Gary Fowler, who is really, really misleading. So Gary, welcome.
Well, I must say, I guess I resemble that remark, Kim, so thank you.
Misleading, yeah. So we sat down and we started to talk, and I thought, I really didn't know who you were, what you were doing there. You didn't seem like the kind of executive that fit the real corporate mold. And then it turned out that Gary Fowler is not just an ordinary schlump attending a show. He has 10 startups under his belt, including a successful IPO. He's a serial entrepreneur, and right now he's working on a massive AI project. And he co-founded the top accelerator in Russia called GVA Launch Gurus. He's an investor. He's a co-founder of DY Investments. He's passionate. I'm going to tell you he's 61, but looks about 45. Gary, welcome.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks for the warm introduction.
So tell us about your project. Let's start there, and then I want to kind of learn about your history and how you got to where you are right now. So tell us about your AI project. Yeah,
sure. With Yva, so what I did is I looked at the world and what we have coming at us every day. And so the starting point 3 years ago, Kim, was very simple. Imagine every single week you say, that files exist, but you can't find it. Why? You've forgotten where it's located, or you've forgotten a key word. This is within your own personal cloud, your email, files, folders. Yeah. And this problem is dramatically increasing every year. We're all having this problem of infobesity. So 3 years ago, I started out with my partner, David Yang, and we came up to solve this problem.
What did you call it? Infobesity?
Infobesity, yeah.
Okay, never heard of that word. Cool.
So we understand that this data is coming at us. In 1996, there were only 257,000 websites. Today, each one of us has about 300,000 items within our own personal cloud. So the amount of data with information we have to access is larger than the size of the web in 1996, and it's doubling every year. So we came up with that. We understood that we're getting flooded with information. In 5 years, the average person will have 10 million items within their own personal cloud. How are we going to be able to access data? We're being fed data all the time. So that's where we started with Yva. That was the beginning of it. A Google-like search for your personal cloud using artificial intelligence.
Okay, so who is this for? Who would purchase it? Is it a corporate-based product? Is it an individual product? And how does it actually work?
Yeah, so we actually morphed the company. So we've had 3 pivots, and the pivot is now for an employee engagement. So I can tell in advance, the system can tell, Yva, 12 minutes in advance if somebody's going to resign or not. So the system looks at the similarities between people that have already resigned and the differences between people that are on staff within a company and those people that have resigned. So
wait a second. That's pretty mind-blowing. How can the system tell?
Well, because there's minute differences, right? There's seemingly imperceptible differences that you wouldn't pick up as a human. And when you're looking at thousands of data points all together, it's understanding where these minor differences are. And Kim, it's interesting because we haven't really focused on human capital the way we should. We say, we're going to do a review on our employees twice a year. Well, employees change over time. So we said, let's on one side have the hard data, right, emails and understanding of sentiments. On the other side, let's do surveys so we can complete a 360-degree view of somebody. Why? So that we can understand what's happening with that person, like a coach, to be able to coach them, help them become the best.
Right. So I'm still curious about that statement. We can tell who's going to resign. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're not the AI robot or the system. Mm-hmm. You're not the computer. But what are some telling signs?
Well, there could be signs where, how fast somebody responds to emails. Right? Wow. Because when somebody's getting close to resign, actually within 2 weeks of a resignation, the amount of their speed dramatically increases. Yeah, you can see that over time, even 12 months out, where you can see those kind of differences, how fast they respond to somebody, what kind of relationships they have with managers, that kind of thing.
So you're accessing all of their data to assess maybe their suitability or their insuitability for a position?
Well, what we're looking, actually both, right? So on one side, how can you help somebody get better if they're not suitable? I'll give you, for instance, so within Yva, we had one person in the company who had been a engineer. And that engineer, when we looked at it, it became that there was a high probability that he would be resigning. Well, it turns out the reason that he was going to resign is not because he didn't like the company, because he wanted to get in business development. Now, here's an engineer that you wouldn't suspect would want to move into business development. So we put him in business development, and now he's a rock star.
So are you saying that this program can preempt, that's the word, potential resignations?
Can preempt. So we're when we look at it, without getting in granular detail, the system can identify who's going to potentially resign so you can course correct. Because by the time somebody resigns from a company, they've already turned in the resignation. The damage is done. What we want to do is figure out how we can course correct so we don't waste a lot of money. 1,000-person company spends about $2 million per year in losing key employees, trying to rehire. The amount of money it costs to go down through the hiring process again. Then you've got people taking 2 to 3 months, up to 6 months to get back up to speed. So we just want to preempt it. And that's just one feature of the system, by the way.
Very, very interesting. So you're this serial entrepreneur. You've been at it for a while, different projects, 10 different startups. Can you describe some of your other projects?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So I started the -- accelerator in Russia, and I had gotten divorced, and I said, what kind of things, what would I like to do with my life? So I went back to university at 50 years old.
Wow. What did you take?
So I took an open program in the Russian language, but I went to Moscow State, which is like Harvard here. And I went back for 5 years. So I looked at it and I said, one of the things that startups don't know is, one, how to network. Two, they don't really have practical training, right? Harvard teaches entrepreneurs zero about entrepreneurship, but teaches them not exactly zero, but not a lot. What it does is it teaches managers how to manage. So what we said is, why don't we create a program to take these incredible minds that are scientifically oriented and help them understand some of the basic tenets of entrepreneurship and startups, which is, one, don't be afraid to fail, right? Mm-hmm. And when we look at it, how do you get financing? What's a Series A? What's a Series B? how do we have contact? How do you get contacts in Silicon Valley if you're in Moscow, Russia, or Vladivostok over by Japan? How do you actually find those kind of resources? And so we started the program, and incredible things happened because it really opened up Russians to startups, and they have incredible expertise in areas like artificial intelligence. And now you see companies like Evernote. Evernote is a Russian company, by the way, that they've now used that expertise and the knowledge about startups and have created incredible companies. So we've had, now there have been about 600 companies through the program. I personally was involved in 200 while I was active in my company.
So why Russia, though? Why not do this in the States?
Well, the one thing that Scott
or Canada, right?
Well, but that's not, everybody does those things. I wanted to try something that was incredible. And Scott McNealy, one of the founders of Sun Microsystems, a long time ago said, always go to the area that you fear the most because you're going to learn the most. And I was just incredibly afraid of Russia. So I wanted to try it because it was like an Indiana Jones adventure for me. Mm-hmm. And that's why I did it, because not a lot of people do it. And I wanted to be one of the ones that would be successful doing it.
Well, and I'll tell you, after meeting you, and we just spoke for maybe, 40 minutes, something like that, everything about you oozes different, everything. Okay, so when looking back at your life and your adventures and your successes, what has been your greatest adversity?
So I like to turn adversity into opportunity. So one of the things that I do is I don't look at the negative side of life, right? I look at the positive side. The glass for me is always half full, not half empty. So in terms of adversity, I got divorced in the economic crisis, and that's when I went back to a school for 5 years. Imagine living in a student dorm after having IPOs and all that, and actually going back to heal your wounds, to lick your wounds, to get better, to give yourself a chance to explore. And it went from a negative thing into a very positive thing because I grew, I started companies, I learned a lot, I learned Russian, I learned about people from other places and how to value differences, right? Sometimes we forget how to value the differences, how to value cultural differences. And so I turn things into positive. I listen to positive music, and
positive music, like what?
Everything from older tunes like Jefferson Starship to Taylor Swift. I mean, anything that gives me energy.
Okay.
Right? Any music that gives energy, that makes you feel good. I watch positive movies. Good things. I'm not into the negative side of it. I want to watch positive movies. And that positive energy becomes part of you, right? And helps you build.
Okay.
And helps.
Now go back. When you got divorced, was it easy to be positive at that time? Or is that something you learned? Is that something you picked up along the way? Did you feel positive? Like, yes, I'm getting divorced? Or did you feel like, man, this is a dark, hard time?
No, I said basically this sucks. This really sucks. And so, but I knew that if I focused on the negative side of it, then nothing good was going to happen. And here I am, 50 years old, divorced with 2 kids. What am I going to do at the height of the economic crisis? So I said to myself, if I keep lingering this, nothing's good's going to happen to me. So I've got to make a dramatic change. And that's when I decided I had been going to Russia before, but that's when I went back over and went to university. So did it suck? Yeah. But what I did is I would watch positive movies, Indiana Jones. I was watching the Last Crusade and Indiana Jones. I would watch and Superman, right? Just positive kind of things for me. And cartoons, funny cartoons. And what happened is you start to feel that positive energy and you start to change. And you don't focus on the negative. Okay, let's talk about I'm back in university. What I said is, this is great. I get a chance to walk now. I get a chance to learn now. I get a chance to meet. I would never meet 20 to 24-year-old students and share their lives with them. And people were so kind. It was incredible. When I was back in school, people would take me out to Siberia to their homes to meet their parents who were elected officials of a city and share their houses or apartments with me and make me dinners and just talk and wanted to be friends. And it was least expected. I mean, here I'm on trains going out to Novosibirsk or Omsk, Russia, or Saratov, and people were incredibly kind to me. And people said, "Oh, be careful of those Russians." They were very, very nice to me. Very nice.
And how did you relate to 24-year-olds when you were 50?
I had to walk a lot faster than I was walking at 50, and I learned how to dance a lot more. I shared their lives with them. What kind of things are important to them? And they were concerned about the future, concerned about how they were going to be able to survive, concerned about their families, and so I could relate to it, and I shared it. And again, I would talk to them about positive things. So we would go out and take walks and talk about life and how you can make a difference, and why not go for that PhD at Penn State University? Why not go to for that PhD at or master's degree at Columbia? And I would just talk to them. I said, anything's possible, but if you don't believe in it, it ain't going to happen. If you believe in it and you visualize it and focus on it, it's going to happen.
Okay, so I want to pause because I think you said a lot of things, and I just want to highlight some of them because I don't want them to go unnoticed by the listeners. So one of the things that you said was that, I was in a terrible situation and I decided to turn it into an advantage. I decided that, hey, I can't just sit in this muck. You didn't say that, I'm saying that. And I've got to do something that will turn this into something that's a good thing rather than a bad thing. The other thing that you said, and I think this is extremely important, is that you used whatever media was out there to really help you manage your mood. Right? You watch movies, you listen to music to help you feel good. And I can't tell you how often I have conversations with my clients about that being the single most important task you can do every day. Because when you feel good, you can achieve anything.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. And you were a living proof of that concept in and of itself, because what you did was you said, okay, I'm going to take care of how I feel first, then I'm going to go do things.
Exactly. And you know what happens when you do that, Kim? Positive thing happens. I got asked to do a TED Talk, Serendipity. I got on stage with Guy Kawasaki. I got to meet a lot of political figures like Schwarzenegger and Condoleezza Rice, because they would come over to Russia. So I would meet incredibly fascinating people. I would meet fascinating Russian celebrities and students and professors, and they wanted to share that energy. They like having the positive energy too, because it makes people feel good, right?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And these people that are incredibly rich that wanted to feel the energy, and the more it happened to me, I'll tell you a story. You'll like this story. So when I was going to Russia, and I believe in serendipity, I was at the McDonald's in Boca Raton, Florida, and I got a phone call, and my friend, this is when I had just found out I was going to get divorced, and I was going back over to Russia into the unknown. My friend calls me up and he says, Gary, he said, a friend of mine said, a doctor's going to Russia. His name is Patch Adams. And I had just watched that crazy movie with Patch, with Robin Williams. He said, do you mind talking to Patch? And so for a number of months when I was over in Russia, Patch would call me on Skype, or I would call him, and he would read Pablo Neruda poetry and laugh with me on the phone and tell me how much he loved me and just to be kind.
Wow.
And so here, what's the chance of that happen? You watch a movie, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks before that. I'd seen it before to feel good. And then my friend said, that Patch Adams is going to Russia. to raise money for this orphanage, Maria's Children. It's crazy. It's amazing, right?
Yeah, but I feel like a lot of amazing things like that happen in your world.
It happens if you believe. If you believe in dreams, Kim, if you focus on that dream and say, this is what I want to do. My first startup was a construction company, and my friend said, well, how are you going to do that? You never build a house. And I visualized this house, and I built 27 houses. Was it 22 years old? Something like that, 23. I built houses, and people said, well, how are you going to do it? Well, my martial arts instructor happened to be a carpenter. I got some pictures from a magazine. I said, can you build this? He said, yes, I can. And I looked at what the prices were. I looked at what the appraisal was. It made sense. It's pretty simple, right? Keep it simple, stupid.
Right.
It's not like rocket science.
So I want to ask you a practical question.
Sure.
You teach networking, right? How do you network? So people want to know, is there a secret to networking? Obviously, you know a lot of very cool people. Is there a secret to that? How do you get in the right place at the right time with the right crowd?
So you gotta have something to offer them, to give them too. I mean, relationships are a sharing experience where you bring something to everybody at the table. And so if you're in a meeting, I'll give you, for instance, I have a lawyer friend that I'm going to meet on Friday, and with one of the top law firms worldwide. And his situation, he's looking at new business and contacts, and I happen to find a couple of companies that could fit a profile. So we're going to meet for breakfast and talk about it. So on one hand, he's my buddy. On the other hand, I bring another contact in that could be interesting. And now that contact, who's been looking for a lawyer, you know, it's a win-win all the way around for all of us. We all win.
Right. So your philosophy is, what can I give to someone else?
Yeah. What can I give? How can I help you?
Yeah.
How can I help you? And if I get nothing in return, that's okay. But how can I make your life? How can I make a little bit of a dent in the universe of your life to help you?
Amazing. Okay. And you got remarried?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I was down in
to a Russian woman.
Yeah, Russian. Yeah, I was down in. You know, it's a very interesting story. And this is again serendipity. So I was down in Voronezh, Russia, a few hours from Moscow, and I met this beautiful lady, and she was all dressed in black, Kim. And I said to her, you know, this is, I guess, October time frame, but it looked weird. She was dressed in too much black, and I said, you know, what's going on here? I was just joking with her. I was joking, and she said, well, my husband died 6 months ago.
Oh.
And I said, why would you be, your husband wouldn't want you to be mourning now. Why don't you be happy? And, you know, do something. Let's go out and have some tea. Let's talk. Let's do something. You know, I want to be your friend. You know, let's just talk. And so, you know, she started smiling, and it turns out later she said, this is the first time I've smiled in 6 months and laughed. And so we became friends. She would come up to Moscow to see me, and we just were friends. She would come up. We'd watch funny movies. We watched Dumb and Dumber. She just, I liked the movie, and I said, come on, let's watch it. Let's watch a romantic comedy, Dumb and Dumber. So, and she's like, you're crazy. But she said, my husband liked this movie too. And I said, well, he's got good taste. Let's watch it again. And so those kind of things, showing her a happy path, actually, you know, over some time, it's, you know, we started to share things in life, and she makes me happy, right? She would make me smile. She would do little things to make me happy, and she came out of it, right? She came out of this negative feeling in this situation over about a year period of time, a little over a year. Came out of this negative feeling to say, you know, he's pretty good. It would be great to get married, you know. And I said, I never thought I would get married again, Kim, in my life. In my life, never thought I would get married again. And here's this incredible lady that's there, and we end up getting married.
And quick question, how do your kids like this wife?
Well, they're busy with their own things, but they, you know, she's a nice person. So they talk to her. I mean, she's a good person. She's like a friend, you know. So my daughter's very close to her, And my daughter's finishing her degree in computer science, going to be working with IBM, and I mean, they're like friends. You know, they talk about things in life, and my son's getting his PhD in clinical psychology, so he's a bit busy. But my daughter, you know, they like each other. She's what not to like, you know.
So there's no resistance there.
No.
Okay, great. So when you look at your life now, what's your greatest challenge?
Greatest challenge is where am I going to have breakfast this morning?
Oh, if only we could all have that problem.
No, I think, you know, the greatest challenge for me personally is right now I'm looking for more AI projects. By the way, what I do is I get into a company, I become co-founder, become CEO, stay 3 years, 2 to 4 years, and then I bring somebody else that has a lot more domain expertise than I do in, and I move on to my next project. Although I'm still major shareholders, I move on to my next project. So right now, I'm looking for my next projects.
I might have one for you.
That sounds good. I would like.
We'll talk about it afterwards. Yep. So you have a coach on the line, and I don't know if you've ever worked with a coach. It sounds like you're a coach on your own, but you have a coach on the line. I work with executives. You know, do you have a specific question for this coach that maybe I could help you with?
Yeah, no, I'm really interested, Kim. How do you stay so positive?
You know what? I do a lot of work on that. You know, one of the things that I do, first of all, I journal, and that really helps. It helps me identify where I am and then helps me to turn myself in the direction of where I want to be. So you use visualization, I use journaling, and I literally write down, like, here's what I want for myself, here's where I want to go, here's how I want to feel, here's what's important to me, here's what I'm going to focus on, and that keeps me on the right path. The other thing is that I coach people. And so you know how you help others? I help others too. And every time I coach someone, really that coaching goes right back to me, right? So right? When someone's struggling with something, it's easy for me to see what's going on. And as I coach them and as the words come out of my mouth, I'm like, oh man, that's the message I'm supposed to hear. So that really, really helps. Being able to coach others, being able to help them increase their feelings of peace and joy really, really serves me kind of as a wonderful side effect.
So what you're saying is that when you're coaching people, that it actually gives you that energy, makes you feel good, helping people help themselves.
Yeah, 100%. And very often, and I know this is going to sound strange, I get off the phone and I go, man, I'm an awesome coach. And it's because I can feel a person shifting. I can hear the change. I can hear the relief. I can hear suddenly like they can breathe again. I can see that they have clarity and then they know where they want to go and what's been holding them back, and they are able to move past that. So for me, it's just so rewarding. And, you know, doing what you love, as you know, also is a really key contributor to keeping you in a positive place.
I agree with you. So, and I remember when we met, one of the things that got me, you said you would talk to somebody and that you knew that they connected with you because they felt emotion. And I remember that when we had our conversation and, I don't know, cried you really hit home with that person. Right. And it made me, I understood then that you must be an incredible coach to be able to connect with a person that quickly and feel their energy.
Well, I'm able to understand what's really going on quite fast. And I'll tell you something, and I've been really talking quite a bit about this lately, is that I think that I just have a natural curiosity that allows me to ask questions that some people don't feel comfortable asking. And when you are able to do that, when you're able to just go to a personal place very fast, number one is you build a connection, but also you're able to help a person move to a new place, with a lot of speed and impact. And so, I don't know, I've been doing it for 14 years. So the more you do it, the better you get, and the more natural it becomes. So for me, coaching is extremely instinctive.
I think it's really important, connecting with the people and bringing it to an emotional level and sharing energy with them. And it does make you feel better. And that was one of the things that I felt about you when we met in Atlanta, is that you're able to do that very quickly, and that cuts through a lot of the crap in life so that you can really, get to the bare bones of where somebody is and help them rebuild.
Well, and at the end of the day, you are really a model of this, is that when we look at what prevents people from reaching their goals, it's really their thinking. And you have been able to overcome that by really managing, honing, mastering your thinking and not letting, you called it the crap, really bog you down. And really that's what's in most people's way. People get really bogged down with a bunch of nonsense that prevents them from being able to live their lives with ease and achieve their goals in a fun, engaging way that makes them feel great.
I agree with you. You go through lessons in life, Kim. I had martial arts classes when I was in high school, and I put a black belt on my wall, and I said, Dad, someday I'm going to get that. I was probably 11 years old. And I remember I started to really actively study, and I had this martial arts instructor who at the time was an 8th degree black belt from Korea. And he brought a 2-inch cinder blocks cap to me, and he said I needed to break it by holding it in one hand. And he said it's by using strong mind. And I never thought in the world you could, it's one thing holding it on the ground. And I smashed through it. And I understood that life's a lot like that, Kim, that life is a lot looking at it and say, I can do it. When I went through that thing, it changed the way that I felt about life. And I was, young, maybe 16, 17, something like that. Mm-hmm. But it really set the stage for the future. It means face those fears, go through them. What's next?
Right. Amazing. Incredible. Gary, I can't tell you how thrilled I am that you were my guest on this show. I think you left everyone feeling totally inspired, pumped, and ready to go watch Dumb and Dumber. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much.
And I look forward to staying in touch and seeing perhaps what's in store for us.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks for your time, and I wish you all the best in the world. Be happy, and I'll talk to you again.
Awesome.